My story is a personal journey as well as a journey of our family business. My grandfather started our family business in 1895. His name was John C. Clemens. His business began when his father gave him one hog a week to butcher, and he would load it on a horse and wagon, take it to Philadelphia, and he'd sell his meat products to the city folk. Then he would go to the wharfs in Philadelphia, pick up a load of fish, take them back and sell it to the country folk. His slogan, never an empty wagon. He did this while he was still living at home. In 1900, he got married to my grandmother, Susie, and they continued to live with their parents. About 4 years later, they had accumulated enough funds to buy their own farm, which was about 1 mile away from his parents. By this time, his business had began to expand beyond one hog. But since there was no refrigeration at the time, you only produced pork products in the wintertime or until the ice that you cut during the wintertime would melt towards summer. So he included other things in his business, including produce, poultry, dairy, and other items. He also began to sell his products in local grocery stores that had very few fresh products. By 1920, he had gone back to just having a meat business and a retail business. His business was growing, and so was his family. My grandparents had 14 children. However, 4 of those children died before their first birthday. So they raised 10 children, 5 boys and 5 girls. By most people's mindset, they were becoming successful and moving towards comfort. Not where I think they should go, nor do I think it's where they thought they wanted to be. See, our family had a very strong religious background, and my grandparents were raised in the Mennonite faith. Mennonites are very conservative people, but they also have a very strong pacifistic belief. But one thing for certain, they believed that God was in control of everything and allowed things to happen in their lives that would build their reliance upon God. They tried to live a life based on faith in God. Over the years, that faith has been severely tested. And this has personally impacted me and how I see the world around me in the 21st century. As a Christian leader in the 21st century, see, I need to live and learn and to walk by faith and not by fear. And yet I can't do this blindly and not recognize the minefields that are all around us. The Apostle Paul in the Bible said this in 1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7. He said this, "For God did not give us a spirit of timidity, but a spirit of power, of love, and self-discipline." So what's a spirit of timidity, and how does that impact business in the 21st century, and especially business leaders? Well, the spirit of timidity is a spirit of fear, which I define as not really being sure of oneself, lacking bravery and courage, and approaching every problem being very timid. This truly is a person who is not called to be a business leader in the 21st century. You know, I said our faith was tested in our business, but also in our family. See, my grandparents had to deal with the death of 4 children. But then in 1921, their family home burned to the ground. And they actually had to put their children around the community until they could get their home rebuilt, which was not an overnight project. Then in 1933, my grandmother needed to go to Philadelphia for routine gallbladder surgery, and she died. Then in 1946, our entire business was destroyed by fire. But if I go back to that verse, the Apostle Paul told Timothy that God did not give us a spirit of timidity, which I said is a spirit of fear. This is exactly where my grandparents and my parents could have been, especially if they had a goal to be comfortable. See, they all went to what I call as God's desert school, where they learned to understand the meaning of being content. It was a lesson that I had to learn also. But Paul tells young Timothy that he needed to have the spirit of power, of love, and of self-discipline. So what is the spirit of power? It's a willingness to move ahead despite potential fear or danger, knowing that the potential outcome is greater than the potential loss. Again, another lesson our family needed to learn. We had experienced great loss, but God said this: if we trust Him, He will reward us greater than our loss. Or to say it this way, the reward is worth the risk of moving forward when you really feel like hanging it up. But Paul also said two other things: to have love and self-discipline. So the question for you, can and should love be a characteristic of a leader in the 21st century? And why is self-discipline mentioned? See, effective leaders in the 21st century need to have a love nature, not a selfish nature. A love nature looks out for other people, not the selfish nature that only looks out for yourself. A love nature is willing to make a tough call when others may want to take the easy way out. Finally, you need to have self-discipline in every area of your life, including your business life. Why self-discipline? Self-discipline allows you to know when to hold and know when to fold, and not a moment too soon and not a moment too late. See, these are real lessons we had to learn in life. Tragedy had struck our family business often, and we had to learn self-discipline. We had to learn to trust God and learn to move forward. You know, in 1933, when my grandmother died, my grandfather had to make some major decisions. Do I throw in the towel or do I go forward? He did both. He needed to make some real priority decisions and trust God. He ended up selling his retail business and concentrate only on the meat business. However, 9 years later, in 1941, he knew it was time to let the next generation take over. And he sold the meat business to two of his sons. These two sons continued to run the business until 1946, when the next major challenge came. The business burned to the ground and the family lost everything. But the brothers had a discipline to clean up the mess and rebuild. However, they had another challenge: no steel. During World War II, rationing was put on many different things, including steel. And they wanted to rebuild, but no steel was available. Even though the war was over, rationing still continued, and they couldn't until the inventory was built up. So the brothers decided not to have a spirit of timidity, but to move forward. They went to a neighboring competitor and asked if they wanted to sell their business. The neighboring competitor said no. 3 weeks later, they approached that competitor again. Now, two of their other brothers had joined with them, and the competitor said yes, they would sell the business. See, there's a real lesson for all of us to learn here. When God closes a door, as He did with both the fire and the neighboring competitor saying no, if He has really put a drive into your life, He expects you to use the power He has given you, balanced by love and discipline, to find alternate solutions.